in this case.
Kia ora and welcome to Washington DC. It's great to see you all here, and it's been a busy start already. As you know, today is a day where we're very focused on building and deepening and broadening the relationships we have across political leadership here in the US. It's been a great chance to meet with a number of members of Congress and also senators, and also got to meet with the Senate Foreign Relations Committee as well as Foreign Affairs Committee for Congress as well. And again, consistent themes as we discussed issues within the Indo-Pacific region, global themes, particularly with NATO in mind, the reason we're here this week. And it was a good chance for us to talk about the Ukraine. And obviously we're very proud to announce that we're going to have $16 million more funding, bringing our total support to Ukraine up to $130 million, which we've announced this morning. While I'm here today, it's really a big focus on the bilateral relationship with the US and actually deepening and broadening those connections. While I'm here today, it's really a big focus on the bilateral relationship with the US and actually deepening and broadening those. And then on Thursday is actually NATO and the IP4 meeting, and that is a formal set of meetings, and obviously the main reason for why we're here. There is 38 leaders that are here in Washington DC this week, and it's a big opportunity for us to talk about obviously the issues within Europe, but also how they connect into the issues within the Indo-Pacific region as well. And then obviously Friday is in San Francisco meeting with investors and innovators as well. So happy to take questions.
Do you think President Biden will survive to the November election?
Oh look, those are issues for US domestic politics, and my job as Prime Minister is to make sure that I can work with whoever the people of America select as their president.
How likely is it that you'll meet him on this trip?
Well, he's actually here hosting NATO, and as I said, the 32 countries of NATO, the 4 from the IPF and 2 others from the European Union and President Zelensky. So we won't have a formal Oval Office meeting as such. I'm sure over the course of the next few days there'll be a moment for us to be able to catch up.
Has anyone raised with you that disastrous debate performance or the President's future over the course of your meetings so far?
No, our focus has been around making sure that we talk about issues that are about common interest between the US and New Zealand. A lot of it about the rules-based system and making sure that we, our alignment on our values and the joint programs of work that we have.
Are you disappointed?
Sorry.
You mentioned debate performance.
Sorry?
As a close friend of the United States, all of those points, did that debate performance concern you?
Again, I'm not talking about US domestic politics. I'm here as Prime Minister of New Zealand, and my job is to work with whoever.
You mentioned 16.
Yeah, but my job is to work with whoever the leader is. And as I said, I'm also here building out deep relationships and broader relationships across the political aisle, and also at different levels of government.
You mentioned $16 million for Ukraine. Have you had any feedback from the Ukrainian leadership about that at this point? And is that enough, given that the scale of aid other NATO countries are donating to the Ukraine?
Well, look, I think given our distance away from it, the fact that we've been with NATO, with Ukraine from day one, even in opposition, you heard me express very strongly solidarity with Ukraine. I think it's important. These are values that we have of believing in the sovereign state of nations, and it's important that we stand up for those values. And so, New Zealand is doing, I think, has made a really valuable contribution that is appreciated by Ukraine. $130 million, as I said, 16 more million this today is actually a good thing.
We've seen a very friendly meeting in the last 24 hours or so between India and Russia, and both leaders talking about their very dear friends. New Zealand's obviously working towards a bigger and better relationship with India. How much does it concern you, that relationship with Russia and with Putin?
Well, India has its own national interests that it obviously advances. I'm here to advance New Zealand's national interests, and so for us it is about making sure that we actually can deepen and build a relationship with India. It doesn't mean that we agree with every country that we have trading relationships with or security trading relationships with, and it's the same here. So India's, it's had a long-standing connection to Russia. Clearly, I think, when you've seen President Putin with that illegal war in Ukraine, and we've seen damage done to a hospital today with Ukrainian school children in it, it's not great.
How disappointed are you that, given what is happening in the US with the leadership and the presidential election coming up, that you haven't managed to secure a formal bilateral meeting or get to the White House at this point?
Well, I just put to you that we are actually here as guests of NATO. It's NATO that's President Biden is hosting NATO here in DC, and we have been invited as one of the IP4, along with Japan, Korea, Australia, and ourselves, to be here as well. So it's actually IP4 is actually a mechanism of NATO to actually invite like-minded countries from the region to join and participate in some of the program. But this is not a bilateral visit here. This is about us using the opportunity to build a bilateral relationship with and deepen that across a number of different leaders across the US system. Do the same, actually seeing a number of European leaders in one place, and obviously to participate in the NATO conversations and then further out with investor conversations.
That Oval Office meeting, but hadn't you?
No, that has not been our focus. We are here genuinely as guests of NATO, and President Biden is hosting the whole of NATO here, obviously the 32 countries plus the 6 others that are here as well. So that has not been our goal or an objective of ours.
$16 million for Ukraine, is there more where that came from?
Well, I mean, again, I've spoken to President Zelensky, when I was first appointed. I know our contributions have been greatly appreciated. We'll continue to look at it. If there's more that's needed, we'll continue to see whether we can help in the ways that we can. But I just say to you, I think New Zealand contributing $130 million is pretty good. We've got almost 100 personnel working with our British counterparts and partners training Ukrainian soldiers in England, and we'll continue to look at what's needed.
Sorry, Logan. There's a very good chance,
good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. There's a very good chance come November that Donald Trump will be president again. Speaking to a number of New Zealand businesses, they are concerned about potential changes to US foreign policy, in particular potential trade tariffs. Have you got a message to them at this point? Well,
look, again, I'm not going to interfere in US domestic politics. That is ultimately a decision for the American people to make about their leadership and who represents them as president. My job is to make sure I can work to the very best of my ability with whoever is in power after November the 5th.
Do you believe Donald Trump won the 2020 election?
Again, I'm not touching US domestic politics. I'm focused on New Zealand, and I'm making sure that I can work with whichever government is put in place.
Prime Minister, you've talked a bit about the need for New Zealand to make deep relationships at different levels of government. And based on what you've seen today and what you've been briefed, are you satisfied that New Zealand's relationships, in Capitol Hill, around the halls of power, on both sides of politics, where they need to be? Are they up to snuff, or is more work?
Look, I think they've really appreciated the engagement. They've appreciated hearing what our new government wants to achieve, particularly our stepped-up role within the Indo-Pacific region, which you've heard me talk about in Japan, you've heard me talk about on our Southeast Asian swing as well. And so it's been a good opportunity to actually make sure that they understand that New Zealand is a trusted partner. And part of it is making sure in a big country like this with a very large political system, you need to make sure you've got multiple relationships across the system.
What I'm asking though is, based on what you said, do you think that New Zealand has done the work to get the sufficient relationships that we need to advance our national interest?
I think the quality of the visits that we're having today is testament to the great work of our ambassadorial team and the standing that we're held here in Washington, which is very good. It's been important to make sure that our government, I know Winston Peters has met with many of these folk already, I've met with many of them and some new ones as well. Important that we build broad relationships.
You've got a number of bilateral meetings tomorrow penciled in. Are you able to give us any indication about who you're going to be meeting with?
Not at this stage, but I will confirm that tomorrow.
What about the likes of Justin Trudeau, Sir Keir Starmer?
I'm just not going to go into that. I'll talk about that tomorrow.
Back to Logan's point, are you not even remotely concerned about the potential threat that President Trump could pose for America, for the relationship?
Well, what I just say to you is it's completely hypothetical, and I'm not here as Connie the commentator. I'm here as Prime Minister of New Zealand, and my job is to make sure that I can advance New Zealand's national interests with whoever is selected as president. That is a decision for the American people. In the same way that that we don't expect other countries to interfere in our domestic politics, it's something that I think is a very wise thing.
Just on domestic. Kurt Campbell talked about this morning.
Sorry?
You met with Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell. What were the discussions around?
Oh, look, it was really what we're seeing across the Indo-Pacific region. It's what we're seeing around the rules-based system, and actually what else we need to be doing to buttress it. As you know, across our region, we've seen a lot of mini-laterals, lattice work, I'd call it, of different combinations of like-minded countries coming together in security and defence arrangements, as well as the importance also of continuing to build economic trade and links as well. So it was just a pretty broad-ranging conversation about what we're seeing across the Indo-Pacific and across Europe.
Just domestically.
Can I just ask you a couple of quick
Yeah,
questions?
sure.
Yeah. The New Zealand Film Commission head, the former CEO, it's come out today that he got given almost $500,000 in severance payments. It was kept secret. Do you think there's a case for those severance payments for government departments to be public?
Look, I'm not aware of that. I know there'll be individual employment contracts between boards and between the management teams. Our job is to make sure that we appoint the right chairs and board members. They then appoint the management team. So I don't have a strong position on it.
You've criticised secret severance payments for government entity CEOs before, about Te Pukenga, for example. Are you going to move on that now that you're in government?
Well, it's the first I've heard of it, in fairness, today, and I know that's something that Paul Goldsmith will be looking at, and something you should direct to him. Yes, I did catch bits of that, and I also caught bits of the UK debate as well.
And when you saw President Biden trailing off, saying just Medicare, COVID, when he was supposed to be talking about taxation, what went through your mind?
Again, I'm not talking about US domestic politics. I'm here to make sure I'm advancing New Zealand's national interests, and that's what we're here to do.
Just on the Darlene Tana issues, obviously she's now left the Green Party but hasn't said if she's going to leave Parliament. Do you think that she has a responsibility to leave now that she's not in the Green Party?
Look, again, those are issues for the Green Party. Every party handles its personnel issues differently, and it's been certainly a long time coming for whatever, but I appreciate that's an issue for the Greens.
But it's not an issue for the Greens now. She's an independent MP. So does somebody who was not elected by constituents or have an electorate and has left the party in such a way, is there a place for Parliament for somebody like this?
Those are issues for the Speaker to consider.
If it was somebody in your party, what would your reaction be then?
Well, I'm telling you, it's not someone in my party, right? And I manage my personnel issues, as you've seen over the last 3 years, and I'll continue to do so. I just have been amazed at how long it has taken to get to this resolution, and so those are obviously issues for the Green Party. They're obviously issues for the Speaker in Parliament.
Just a vibes-based question. It's obviously a pretty big deal coming to the capital and having a motorcade through Washington DC. How's that been feeling today?
Oh, look, I mean, it's really been. I've really enjoyed the stimulation of actually getting in the room with senators and Congress people who are actually really deeply thinking about these issues, and we've had some very high quality conversations around what is actually happening, what our respective reads of it are. They're very interested in our perspective around how we see the region and the opportunities for the region as well as some of the challenges. So,
what about a personal comment? Have you had a pinch me moment?
Well, it's a place I've visited a lot in the past, and I'm a bit of an American political junkie, so it's always cool to be in Washington DC. I think all of us would say that. So it's very hot.
How did you come to be chairing the IP4?
I'm not sure. I'm not confirming that or denying.